The U.S. Air National Guardsman, accused of leaking dozens of top-secret military documents on social media, has now been indicted on federal charges. Jack Teixeira is charged with 6 counts of willful retention and transmission of classified information relating to national defense. Each count carries a sentence of up to 10 years in prison, and if convicted, Teixeira could spend as much as 60 years behind bars. The indictment comes 2 months after Teixeira was arrested at his parents' home in Massachusetts. He has since been in jail and was already charged with violating the Espionage Act and the unlawful removal of defense material. Joining me now to talk more about the case and these new developments, NewsNation national security contributor Tracy Walder. She's also a former CIA officer and former FBI special agent. Tracy, good morning to you. Merrick Garland, in his statement, and it was a press release, said Teixeira's violated U.S. law and endangered national security. I wonder, could the DOJ be looking to make an example out of him? What do you think?
Well, thank you for having me, Marni. I don't necessarily know that they are making an example out of him. This is pretty par for the course with what other individuals, such as if we look at Chelsea Manning, have been charged with in terms of mishandling documents. It really is about the portion of the Espionage Act that they charged him with, which is 793, and that's the willful retention of documents. They did not charge him with 794, and that means that they would have reason to believe that he was acting as a foreign agent and providing these documents to a foreign nefarious power. And so that would be making an example out of him. But 793, that section is actually pretty standard and what unfortunately a lot of individuals have been charged with in terms of this.
As I said a moment ago, each charge carries a prison sentence up to 10 years, so he faces up to 60. Do you think he serves time?
I personally do think that he will serve time. Now, do I think he's going to serve 60 years? I don't necessarily think that. I think there's going to be some plea negotiation in here, which is why he was charged with 6 counts and not just 1. It does kind of provide the opportunity for that type of pleaing back and forth. My guess is he's probably going to get somewhere between 20 and 35 years.
This is one man, this was one case, but it is one very serious one. Does it erode trust in the American public and the ability of these government agencies to keep secrets and maintain staff?
I personally believe that it does, especially when it's been in the news a lot recently. We have seen a lot of this in regards to, the willful retention of these kinds of documents. And I believe you're absolutely right. I think if we start to see this enough, it does erode the public's trust in these organizations to keep information safe and also to properly vet employees in regards to information handling.
What changes do you expect will undoubtedly come of this that we will see almost immediately?
So that's a great question, Marni. I think the biggest change and one of the changes that I would like to see is a more thorough examination of applicants' social media. That seems to be a place where the background check process is a little bit behind. Now, certainly they do very deep dives into their personal connections and somewhat of a cursory glance at their social media. But the reality is what we're seeing is a lot of this is taking place through social media, and there are some indicators that are being missed. And so I do think that that is something that is going to change. At least I hope it does.
All right. Well, we shall see. I want to get your thoughts on another case. It's this couple that was found dead inside their hotel room in Mexico, an American couple on vacation. At first, they thought they had food poisoning, according to their family. They went to the hospital. They started feeling better. And then the family was informed that they had been found dead inside their room, told that it was improper venting and that it may have been a carbon monoxide poisoning, according to the hotel. There's no evidence of violence, again, according to the hotel. Any reason that we should be skeptical of where things stand and the information that's out there?
I personally don't think so, but I do think that this is a warning. If you look at the symptoms that they had, which seemed to be food poisoning, that's what has been reported. And then they got better when they were removed from the hotel room and spent those nights in the hospital. That's a pretty clear indicator to me that there was something in their environment that was causing them to be sick.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.